This is the fifth part of the videos for optical tracking, and in that part I would like to track the rigid bodies for the legs. So we have these kind of triangles that we need to assign for our upper leg. So let's try to do that. We have this triangle here, and it probably any kind of figure. It can be 2-point rigid body and so on and so forth. But in our case we have 3 points. So I'm trying to drag from the 1 point to fit our rigid body. I hope I have the correct. So this is like we need to turn on our imagination, because sometimes we can not correctly orient the rigid body, and we will have need to swap markers on the final result on optical data. But we can do this. These tweaks is not a big problem. So on that stage I'm just do the fit. I'm trying to solve in forward direction for that body. Okay, I have lost the result. I will try like I'm lost the result. There is a possibility to see if I show the bug and show matching. I will see the radius, 3 radius for each point. This radius is used to find the correspondence point set for our rigid body. And if we use ransack, that means it will try to find the correspondence for each point in the rigid body, and there is a threshold distance which increase the radius around each point, and like the value 6 is not enough for 1 point to search. The nearest one is outside the radius. That's why if we increase just a bit our radius and try to fit one more time, we will find the needed corresponding point cloud, and we can use that because the quality is enough. And another possibility is to use the after mode or graph mode. After mode, it means it will try ransack, and if failed it will use graph, and graph will search the graph path correspondences around all these big radius, and we can control this radius in the matching radius parameter. But it's better to use ransack, and just for several, maybe 3-point rigid bodies like that, we can use after mode. So we fit one more time, and I don't need debug information anymore, and try to solve in forward direction. So we lose 1 marker and we failed. Okay, this is too big distance. We assign 3 markers, fit, and try to solve. Now we still failed because there is no marker. Okay. So 1 marker is always disappearing, and we can fill this gap using after the manual possibility to track individual markers. So right now we try to fill the rigid body. So we have quite a long distance when the leg is moving fine. That's good. And that's all. We can continue after just using the 2 markers. So that's all for that rigid body. So let's go to the opposite side and see when we have 3 markers here. We have on that frame, for example. So we drag the body. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't work from the first time, and we need to do it 2 times. Okay, we fit and try to solve. There is no result. Try to fit. There is no enough threshold distance, we make it bigger and turn to after mode. We fit and continue solving. Alright, so let's see what we have finally. That's enough. And after some frame, we don't have enough information for tracking 3 points. So that means now there is some frame where we have 3 points. We can try to solve that. And that's all. So after we can continue only just with the specific markers. That's all for that rigid body. Okay, and for legs we have 2 more rigid bodies, one for each feet. So let's try to align our rigid body. We move it in space. And then we can align using this drag and align feet. I will use also the after mode for the feet. Save result. Okay, track and forward direction. And it shows us that we have probably the fine result during all the timeline. That's okay. And we miss some frames. We will continue this tracking using just an individual. Okay, with the opposite feet we do quite the same. We move in space. And we have, I think, all needed markers. There are 4 markers for aligning the rigid body. So let's use these 4 markers. Okay, turn off the manipulator. And align our rigid body. I will also use the after mode, do some fit and solve. We need to wait a bit. Alright, so it's quite the same position as the opposite side. We can check in time how our rigid body works, but I think it's fine. Alright, but we still have some point with the 4 markers or 3 markers. We can continue tracking, and we have this feet up to the end. That's nice. Alright, that's all with the feet. And with the legs, like we have rigid bodies which is moving along all the timeline, that we have this action. And on next video we can continue with the hands and finish all the tracking on the first stage.